waive that policy. Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Berkeley County Board of Education meeting this Tuesday, September the 22nd, 2015. I call this meeting to order, and I declare that a quorum is present and the media has been notified. I'd like to take just a moment here to introduce to you all the new media education reporter for the Post and Courier, Mr. Paul Bowers. Please stand up, Paul, and let everybody recognize you. Thank you. And also, the new Public Information Officer for Berkeley County School District, Ms. Katie Orvin. Please stand up. Thank you. This time I'll take a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda as is. It has been seconded. Any discussion? Then all of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. This time, please stand with all of us and let's have our prayer and our Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Be seated. This time, can we have a motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of the September the 8th, 2015 meeting?
So moved. Second.
It has been, a motion has been made to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of September the 8th, 2015. Is there any discussion? Then all of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. Moving on to agenda item number 5, the approval of the August 2015 Head Start Budget Expenditures Report, August 2015 Head Start Credit Card Report, and the prospective new hires. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the August 2015 Head Start Budget Expenditures Report, August 2015 Head Start Credit Card Report, and prospective new hires as presented in agenda item 5.
Second.
Then we have a motion to approve the August 2015 Head Start Budget Expenditure Report, the August 2015 Head Start Credit Card Report, and prospective new hires as presented in agenda item 5. Any discussion? Then all those in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Then item is approved. This time we'll entertain the item number 6, the citizens' comments. Our first person moving up, and before we call that person, let me go over again the procedures here. In order to conduct a meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you honor the following guidelines. The stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action on public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, and procedures. Comments regarding complaints against employees other than district-level executives or references to students other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. To maximize participation, comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and the board has set aside a maximum of 30 minutes for the public comments. The board chair does reserve the right to allot additional time or to halt public comments that do not adhere to the guidelines. At this time, we have Mr. Raymond Brown, who will be describing distributive practice and distributive instruction and describing the pros and cons, etc. Mr. Brown.
Before I begin, let me apologize. I had the same problem last time I was here. My voice, I have never in my life had my voice like it is now. I think I have COPD or something other like that that does not allow me to speak in my normal fashion. So I do apologize. I would ask that Mr. Hayes maybe give me a notice when I have like 1 minute left to speak. As we all know, or most all of us probably, America now ranks last place in the world in education, tied with 2 other countries. To me, that is shameful. That is unnecessary. And there are groups out there that are always pushing for more money. Well, my knowledge is that it's not more money that we need. It's more effort to improve achievement. I want to speak some more on what's called distributed practice. Mr. Hayes knows what it's all about. He was a math teacher and he used it when he was teaching math. I created a math program that I'm not trying to sell that was called Easy Math. And students in that program learn math as measured by standardized testing up to 900% of their norm. That's 9 times. For the amount of time used in the classroom, they learn 27 times their norm. They were using it for a third of the classroom. Now, it had the benefit there of achievement, but it also had a lot of other benefits. The discipline in the classroom is better. The motivation was better. Teacher frustrations were less. I've had teachers tell me that they loved it, and as long as they were teaching, in this case it was basic skills, they would never stop using Easy Math. That's just the attitude that I think practically all teachers that used it had. Berkeley Middle School a number of years ago won an EIA incentive grant because they used Easy Math. Let me give you a few examples of my personal knowledge of it. I taught for a while at Lincoln High School in McClellanville. One year I was given the slowest students in the school, and at the end of that year, when Charleston County gave an area exam in math, my students were then the highest students in the school because of using distributed practice. They scored 14 percentage points higher than any, or than the students that previously had been the highest in the school. When I taught out at Schroeder on Young's Island, my kids learned between 7 and 8 times as much. And I taught at Berkeley High School, they learned 5 times as much. And I also wrote some science materials, and I had a teacher that used distributed practice for 9 weeks in French class. Her kids went from last place in Charleston County to not first place, but third place in a 9-week period of time. I see that my time is up. I will be speaking numerous times. I will probably be going on television numerous times. I have no restraints from being on television. I can afford to go on there, and I'll be reporting as needed on television, and that's listed on what I gave you folks. My website is there, and any appearance I have on television will also be on my website. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Our second speaker will be Mr. Terry Hardesty on board actions.
Good evening, Dr. Turner, members of the board. First of all, it's really nice to see all the seats filled up here tonight. That's good to see. I wanted to make a comment. You know, I come up here with a lot of criticism for things that I see as wrong. And tonight I want to praise the board and commend you for the actions you took at the last board meeting. That was, I'm sure, a difficult decision for many of you. I especially want to commend Dr. Turner for making the recommendation and knowing the workings of this board and the peripheral around it. I believe he probably was the impetus. So I've spoken to Dr. Turner privately, but I just wanted to commend you and the board for your actions. Thank you.
Okay, then moving on to agenda item number 7. Administration and Facilities. We're looking at the first reading of attendance lines proposals for Philip Simmons Schools and grade configuration change for Cane Hoy Elementary and Middle School. This is an item for action.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Turner, members of the board. This evening I'm going to share with you the administration's recommendations for the attendance lines for the Philip Simmons schools, as well as some changes in grade configuration for Cane Hoy Elementary Middle School. The process that we use for establishing attendance lines, we look at several things. We look at the school capacity, current enrollment, and predicted enrollment, the natural and man-made boundaries, neighborhood and subdivision lines, transportation routes, population growth, as well as new and predicted building construction. If you'll excuse me, Mr. Davis is not here with our lights. I just realized that. We solicit input and feedback from board members, principals, district office staff, and community stakeholders that are involved in the process of establishing attendance lines for any school, but right now we're talking about for the Philip Simmons schools. The schools that will be impacted will be Daniel Island, Cane Hoy Elementary Middle, Philip Simmons Elementary, Philip Simmons Middle, Philip Simmons High, Hanahan High, and Timberland High School. This map represents the attendance lines for all of the attendance areas for all of those schools if they would be approved this evening. The green area that you see will be Cane Hoy Elementary School as an attendance area. The purple will become the Philip Simmons Elementary School, and the tan will be Daniel Island School. The green and the purple together will be Philip Simmons Middle School, and then the green, purple, and tan will become Philip Simmons High School. Daniel Island School attendance zone will include the Shell Ring area, will also include the park side of Daniel Island, as well as the central portion of Daniel Island. And for this is 526 here, just to give you an idea of where we're talking about. The capacity for Daniel Island School is approximately 1,200 students. Given the current attendance or enrollment for this area, we would have, once the new schools are open and if you approve the lines as are presented this evening, would have about 1,050 students in grades K through 5, 1,050 students. So there's room in the school for additional homes that will be built. In speaking with the developer at Daniel Island, There are about 450 residential units left to build, if there is a build out for that many. Single-family homes, multifamily, and luxury homes. Additional property could be developed also in the Shell Ring area. We get about 4 students for every 10 in a home. So there are about 180 to 200 students that could come out of these homes. But keep in mind, these would be K-12, not just K-8. For Philip Simmons Elementary attendance area, we begin along 526, extending north to the Cooper River, and south along Beresford Creek, to include the homes in Beresford Creek neighborhood here, and those on Pinefield Drive. And if you can read that, then you're much better than I am. The boundary extends east and north along Flag Creek, which is here, to Brick Church Road, and across Highway 41, which is here, over onto Hoover Road, which is here. When we turn, it becomes Hoover A Road, and then west along Halfway Creek Road, and down south along Garin Landing Road to the Wando River. Under the proposed plan, Cane Hoy Elementary Middle's grade configuration will change from pre-K 8 to pre-K 5. Students in grades 6 through 8 and living in the Cane Hoy attendance zone will attend Philip Simmons Middle School. The northern boundaries of the attendance area will remain the same. All of this area remains the same here, bordering the Cooper River and extending north to Irish Town Road, which is right at the very top of the slide. Then it will go south along Highway 41 to Southampton Road, all the way down to Steed Creek Road, and end at Halfway Creek Road. So all the green area that you now see, and there's not very much change in the current attendance area, what will become the new Cane Hoy Elementary School. Under the proposed plan, the Philip Simmons Middle School will include those students, as I said earlier, that are in the Philip Simmons Elementary, as well as Cane Hoy Elementary. For the attendance area for Philip Simmons in the middle school will go to grades 5 through 8, and then from students coming from Cane Hoy will be grades 6 through 8. Also, the proposed attendance area for the Philip Simmons High School, which is scheduled to open in the fall of 2017, will be a combination of all 3 of the attendance areas. We held 2 meetings that were held in public. First one at Cane Hoy Elementary School on September the 10th, and then on September the 14th, one was held at Daniel Island School. Both meetings were from 6 to 8. We had good attendance at those meetings, and comments from the meetings were mostly positive. There were a few concerns regarding the proposed changes, and Mr. Jackson has already, or Ms. Whittle has already shared those comments with you that came from those meetings. It is the recommendation of the administration to adopt the proposed attendance lines for Philip Simmons Elementary, Philip Simmons Middle, Philip Simmons High School as presented for first reading, with the adoption of these lines to include an amendment to the current attendance lines for Daniel Island School and Cane Hoy Elementary Middle School, and a change in the grade configuration of Cane Hoy Elementary Middle to pre-K 5. The proposed changes, if approved, will go into effect upon the completion and the opening of the new schools.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the administration's recommendation to adopt the proposed attendance lines for Philip Simmons Elementary, Philip Simmons Middle, and Philip Simmons High School as presented for first reading, with the adoption of these lines to include an amendment to the current attendance lines for Daniel Island School and Cane Hoy Elementary Middle School, and a change in the grade configuration of Cane Hoy Elementary School, or elementary to pre-K 5. The proposed changes, if approved, will go into effect upon completion and opening of the new schools.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to adopt the proposed attendance lines for Philip Simmons Elementary, Philip Simmons Middle, and Philip Simmons High School as presented for first reading, with the adoption of these lines to include an amendment to the current attendance lines for Daniel Allen School and Cane Hoy Elementary Middle, and to change in the grade configuration of Cane Hoy Elementary Middle to PK through 5. The proposed changes, if approved, will go into effect upon the completion and the opening of the new schools. Do we have any discussion?
I have a question about Timberland High School and Hanahan High School.
Yes, ma'am.
So essentially, the kids that are zoned out of Cane Hoy area now to go to high school will return back to their home area to attend school.
They will all go to Philip Simmons High School. Yes. There are only about, in any given year, Ms. Wofford, about 8 to 10, maybe 12 eighth graders that currently leave Cane Hoy that go to Timberland High School. And again, of course, that varies by year. So yes, there would be a complete attendance area, and they won't be they would no longer be split.
They won't be split between the two high schools.
Yes, ma'am.
when they leave.
Right. And then, of course, all of these students in this area now currently go to Hanahan High School, and they will be going to Philip Simmons High School.
So that would mean there will be a change in the area for Timberland High School as well as Hanahan in the future.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll
Yes.
talk about that later.
What type of population change are we talking at Cane Hoy Elementary Middle? What will the numbers look like?
The school will have in grades pre-K through 5, based on current enrollment, 224 students. And they currently have 281 students in grades K through 8, pre-K through 8.
Okay. And one last question. What type of a bus ride are we looking at for these kids that live up in the top of the Cane Hoy?
They'll have a much shorter bus ride.
Oh, will they?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
because the schools will be right in this area, and now they go all the way to Hanahan.
Yeah, it's
Up here at the very top, some of them go to Timberland,
That's
but the
a
majority
long
of
bus
this, but it's still a long bus ride because it's not just a straight shot. So they will have a much, much shorter bus ride.
Okay, for the high school students, correct?
Yes,
What about
ma'am.
what about the middle school though?
The middle school students will be a little bit further, yes.
But it won't be astronomical.
No, ma'am, I don't think so.
No, it's not. It's
All right.
not very far.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I just want to thank the administration for opening up to the public these meetings and everybody's hard work. Dion's not here, but Dion knew all the numbers. He was the numbers man with population, so he did a great job keeping the public informed. I see members that live in my district. This wasn't a decision we just made willy-nilly, and I appreciate everyone's understanding that the numbers are what the numbers are, though, and we don't take any joy about moving people's children out of schools if we don't have to, but we've got overcrowding, and we need to take into account the future growth. And so this was a tough decision for me to make, but I appreciate everyone that came up at the public meetings, understanding and realizing that this really is, we're looking at numbers, and we don't take any joy out of moving people's children around.
Okay. All right, then we'll call the question again. The proposal is the attendance lines for Philip Simmons Elementary, Philip Simmons Middle, and Philip Simmons High School as represented in the first reading, with the adoption of these lines to include an amendment to the current attendance lines for Daniel Island School and Cane Hoy Elementary Middle, and a change also in the grade configuration of Cane Hoy Elementary Middle PK5. The proposed changes, if approved, will go in effect at the completion of these new schools. All of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And we have unanimous decision on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 7, the financial services item for information, digital learning.
And don't worry, I'm not going to talk about digital learning. We're going to ask some folks that know about it to come up, so I'm going to introduce them. I do want to introduce the best director of innovation and school improvement in the state, Sharon Snyder, and the best executive director of technology in the state, Diane Driggers, to talk about digital learning, and I'm going to sit down and let you listen to it.
Good evening, excuse me. Good evening, Dr. Turner, Board Chair Hayes, and members of the board. This evening, we would like to share a little bit about digital learning, and as Diane and I were putting our presentation together, it really brought back some good memories. Diane had a lot of great pictures from back in the day, and it was really exciting to look at what people looked at like back then and how we were and how we've grown, however, but all the technology and where we are today. I think about, this is my 30th year in education, and I think about years ago when I first started having my 6th graders at the middle school write and have pen pals with other students across the district. And yes, Mr. Obie was one of my students years ago. He probably remembers this, but what we did is having the pen pals really allowed us to really communicate and collaborate with other students across the state and across the country. And those letters were really great, but then we went to a different mode of technology. We videotaped each other, and then we were able to share that tape, but we had to put it in the mail and we had to send it. So the other classroom received that videotape probably a week or two later. They viewed it, and then they did the same thing and sent it back. But it was really neat because one of the activities we would do, we would share books that we read, and it was really to motivate the other students to see the books. So we did book shares. So if I had 35 students in my class and the other teacher had 30, then we had, you know, about 60, 65 different books that we were able to really share and motivate the kids to read. So that was really exciting. But now, the kids in our classrooms today, they don't have to wait for that video anymore. They can Skype, they can FaceTime. They have lots of other opportunities to really bring them together and collaborate with their learning. So we're really excited, and we really appreciate where we are today. We have a mission and vision in Berkeley County regarding where we want to be with our digital learning and our technology, which supports our learning. Our mission and vision statements support our district's 2015-16 areas of focus under high student performance, strategic human resource management, and effective communications. These are our goals for expanding digital learning in Berkeley County. We want to strengthen 21st century skills. You've heard Dr. O'Gorman and others talk about where we want our students to be in the 21st century in that profile of a learner. And we want to make sure that we provide systemic professional development to support all of our teachers in the district and integrate technology in our curriculum and instruction, along with providing all the resources that we need to support our teachers and students and parents in the community. And along with that, we want to make sure we increase public awareness of where we are and where we want to be in Berkeley County. Again, this is a profile that you have seen and Dr. O'Gorman has shared numerous times. Arnie Duncan once mentioned that the factory model of education is the wrong model in the 21st century. Today, our schools must prepare all students for college and careers, and do far more to personalize instruction and employ the smart use of technology in our classrooms. And that is our goal in Berkeley County. Here's a picture of how we want to redesign and what we are doing currently in Berkeley County. Years ago, this is what classrooms consistently looked like. Now, this is a picture of students in a blended environment. These are students that we took from Berkeley County. Teachers are just pouring out all the different opportunities that they're providing kids. This is something that we want to make sure that we continue with our students. Well, we used to say we want to make sure we have the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, but that's no longer. We need to make sure that we fully prepare our students to make sure that they are really prepared for that 21st century. So we really have to now add the 4 C's for learning. We want to make sure that they master creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. This is a good comparison of where we are with our digital learning. and compared to traditional learning that has taken place over the past several years. Learning within the classroom where the teacher is using lots of different opportunities for our kids is very student-centered. Also, technology helps us to make sure that students can learn anytime, anywhere, 24 hours a day, and it's very exciting that they have that information. There's something that we are reading. We're doing a book study with our technology coaches. 6 schools have purchased, and they are funding coaches within their building. And we're doing a book study with Eric Schinninger and on digital leadership. And some things I just want to mention. Digital leaders prefer to access information very quickly from lots of different types of resources. They also prefer to be able to process information, and they really can multitask very quickly. They want to make sure that they can respond and collaborate with others instantly. They prefer to learn just in time. They want everything to be happening currently. Real time is what you've heard before. We also want to make sure that that the information that they have is very cohesive to what they're learning, and those students really want to make sure that it's relevant to what they experience once they leave our classrooms. The neat thing about bringing digital learning and using lots of different types of resources to make sure our kids is it gives all of our students have that voice. Those students that may be too shy or maybe they feel uncomfortable to be able to share, they have that voice in our classrooms. Diane?
Okay, now that Sharon's told you what students want to have, the video and all of the interaction, and everybody wants the information now. And my part's going to be to let you know how we can continue to make the technology transparent so that we can provide those resources for everyone, for all of our students. And some of the things that we have in our schools right now, we've got, I know you hear the BYOD acronym, is just where students can bring their own devices, whether it's a phone or any other device in, and they can log into a guest network and have access through their student login to get to the internet or whatever resources they're using in their class. All of our students from 1st through 12th grade, we have set up, through our office, we've set up an email account, an Office 365 account for email. We've got a Google account set up for them, and we have all of our teachers, we've got their classrooms or the teachers set up in Google in the classroom so that they can go and the teachers can go and assign their students through Google in Classroom. They can assign their assignments to the students. The other thing that we've set up, that's not here, and we try to advertise, but through our Microsoft license, we have all students can have, Student Advantage, where all of our students, as long as they're enrolled in Berkeley County School District, can have access to all the Microsoft Office applications at no charge. This is just to show you that network that we're running. We have everything on our network from the clocks to the bells, and we've got about 16,000 PCs on the network, and we've also had about 16,000 mobile devices on our network right now. And to keep everything running, we're going to talk about the infrastructure and the bandwidth are the things that we have to make sure that we keep current. We've been working with the State Department through the CIO department of the state to increase our bandwidth. There's a formula that E-Rate and the state has set up that every student should have, for every 1,000 students you have in the district, we should have a gigabit of bandwidth for that student so they can have access to the videos instead of a teacher in front of the class on the smartboard showing the video to the class. We have all the students with their mobile devices, whether it's Chromebooks or iPads, and all the videos streaming to those individual devices, which is what the increase in bandwidth and the infrastructure that we talk about. Other thing we've been doing with the State Department, all the sites in green, we have upgraded those sites to the formula that the state and in the Universal Service Fund through E-Rate have established for 2017, which is the gigabit per 1,000 students. All of those sites have been updated or either in the process of being updated on the green. The white are the ones that we're still working on, and we have about 8 sites we've applied for E-rate funding for year 15-16. The other thing that we're doing, just to point out with the state, and it's been no charge to the district, are sites that we have that are coming off, and you'll see that they're connected together, like Stratford, College Park Elementary, College Park Middle. We've tied those schools together with fiber to try to prepare for the future, kind of future-proof those sites, so when we increase bandwidth, it'll be easier to increase it in those sites. So any sites that we could, the state has ran fiber for us to connect those schools together, as long as we had a contiguous property. And in some cases at Fishburne and Hanahan, they ran that link for us as well. And some of the infrastructure upgrades we've done have been through what was remaining of QZAB money that we had the past couple years, and then the state infrastructure that was, they called it Nikki Haley funds, but it was state infrastructure money. I think we had a little over $1 million from that fund this past year, and we used that. And then with the new construction, any of the sites that we've had major construction at, we've used the construction funds to outfit those schools so the infrastructure is ready. And these are the schools that are pending E-rate for 15-16. The other thing that's been interesting to me is to show that, if you can see, we did a slide just showing how many computers, these are regular desktop computers, we purchased in the past since 2011. And you can see the trends going down, where the past 3 years we've purchased less than 1,000 new computers in our school district. We still have the 16,000 that we're supporting, but we've been replacing most of a lot of computers with mobile devices. And this is the mobile devices that we've purchased per year for the past, since 2011. And you can see those numbers have grown exponentially, especially over the past 3 years. And some of this was QZAB money. Some of this has been the state textbook funds for electronic textbooks. Some of it has come from the schools. Google, there are a couple schools, or a school had a Google grant, PTO funds, but different funding sources is, that they used. And this is just showing a comparison of the number of desktop computers that we have, to show so you can see that the trend is with mobile devices. And those mobile devices could be a Chromebook, iPad, and some tablet PCs. What we try to do when we look at infrastructure costs, because the only way that we're going to be able to provide the technology to all of our students with individual devices is to be able to give them the bandwidth that they need for those videos, for the collaboration. So we calculated an infrastructure cost, and this is a 5-year cost for most of the equipment, and we're just talking about equipment that you never see. It's in a closet with a lot of lights on it. It doesn't look like much, but the days that, or if anything happens to it, and when we have no connectivity within the district, then equipment becomes really important. The E-rate funding, I know, just wanted to point this out. We used to get probably $2–3 million a year for E-rate, but they had something called the E-rate modernization that you may have seen from Universal Service Fund, and that was a way for them to spread the money to. I liked it the other way, okay? We got, 80% of free and reduced, a formula that they use. So a lot of our schools, we had about 10 schools that could get all the infrastructure equipment we wanted every 3 years. And I took it, and we would be there the day that 3 years is up, and we would move to another school. And we kept doing that, and we kept getting money every year, and we would move it around. And so schools that would never get E-rate funding, they had the infrastructure. But they've changed the formula. Now we're only funded, there's a cap on it, and we're only funded at $120 per student for 5 years. So that's definitely put a dent in the amount of infrastructure funding that we've received. We have, in this slide, wanted to show where every school was in relation to having we talk about our goal is one-to-one, so every student has a device they can use at school and they can take home. And some of our schools are there. You can see Devon Forest, they're close. It looks like they're over, but that's only factoring in all the teacher devices. But Devon Forest, they received a Google grant. Nexton, we were able to use funds from the community that they received a corporate sponsorship. We were, and in construction money, we were able to go one-to-one at Nexton. And Marrington Middle is another school that's one-to-one. Obviously, Berkeley Middle is one-to-one. They started out with a laptop for all of their students. But you can see some of the other schools are close to getting their one-to-one. And again, most of that's been from different funding sources from within the district. And our goal is for all of our students to have a device, every student to have a device and to be able to take that device home and to have their personalized learning on that particular device. Pretty much, you can calculate about a 3-year lifespan on that device, just like your phone, and pretty much everything right now it would be. I would think 3 years would be what we would be able to get from that device. So. And I put an average cost of $600 a device. You can get Chromebooks for about $330, but an iPad with a case is about $600. And it depends on what application within the, the grade level and what application they're using to decide what device they may need. But I was just not asking for that this year. Just wanted to throw that out as a number, just so we can kind of have a goal of where we want to get to within the district.
And to support all of the great technology that Diane's team is providing for our students and teachers, 3 years ago we looked at where we wanted to be, and with those QZAB funds and other funds that Diane was putting together, we knew that we had to phase our schools in with professional development. So all of our schools, 3 years ago, half the schools went through a 3-day training, and it was ongoing for the entire year. They had 3 folks from their school. One was a librarian and 2 other teachers selected by the principals, and they went through an intense training with our instructional technologists, and we had other folks come in. Diane's group was part of that training as well, and they actually learned how to utilize and what kind of plan to look at. Then they went back to their schools and put a plan together with their administrators on what that would look like in their school as they rolled out devices and what devices and the rules and other pieces. We also have lots of different courses and workshops that we have placed and put together, and some of them are face-to-face, some are online, and some are blended as well. Conferences, we've sent folks to conferences so they could bring back great information. One of our rules, when folks go to conferences, they come back and share. They present the information, we collaborate together. And the neat thing also is a lot of our folks are now presenting at state and national conferences as well. So we've got dynamite folks, teachers, administrators in our district really utilizing devices and these tools for our students and teachers. Again, also we've gone on school visits, and we've gone to in-state and out-of-state schools to really bring back and talk with other schools on how they put their initiatives together and what it looks like, and some really pros and cons of their programs. We also started a PLC with our technology coaches. We have Diane's group, folks from INA, and those 6 technology coaches. We meet with them once a month, and we come together, collaborate, share, and help them be successful and build capacity in their schools. They have a lot of great things to share with us as well. We've got virtual PLCs happening in our district so that we can make sure teachers collaborate together. There are teachers that they're the only person, they're isolated, they're in their school, they're the only person that's teaching that particular subject. So this gives them the opportunity to collaborate with others as well. Diane's group and INA, we meet all the time. Sometimes I think I live down at Memriv, and our group with Diane's team, so we can really build PD and collaborate together so we can have successful programs and resources for our folks. We have lots of different virtual programs and online resources that we're also piloting this year as well. Some initiatives that we're looking at and that we have in place for this school year, we've got flipped learning and blended learning. Blended learning is just like what it sounds. It's a blend of learning. We have face-to-face instruction, and then typically there's an online component that happens within that classroom. This really allows that personalization for that student and the needs, and to ensure that we really meet the diverse needs of the students within that classroom. Flipped learning looks like it's a little bit different. It is a form. It's an instructional strategy of blended learning. However, what happens is there's learning that's taking place outside the school, which is outside the brick and mortar, which is a building, a school. And sometimes new information is shared, or maybe information to review. And then when the students or the learner comes back to school, that's where, instead of repeating that information, the teacher in that classroom can really facilitate some in-depth learning of what's happening. They can do problem-solving activities, project-based learning. So it really gives those students an opportunity to really collaborate and problem solve what they're learning at that time. So it's really a great opportunity, another way to help students learn. We've got, we're piloting our virtual medical homebound with our students within special services. We have, Diane talked about lots of opportunities that we have with Google Apps for Education. We've got schools that are participating in that. Our BYOD, which Diane mentioned as well. We're really trying to ensure that we provide lots of professional development for teachers that's just not face-to-face, but it's online as well, so that we can ensure that they have the opportunity to come together. Are there any questions for us?
What's the total number of technology coaches we have?
For the schools, there are six. We have 3 instructional technologists that are at the district, and they're housed at Monriv, but there are 6 technology coaches at particular schools that have been funded by those schools. That was a decision based on the principals within those buildings.
When we go one-to-one, is the plan to have a technology coach at each individual school? Because I just know, for example, at Daniel Island, it's a lot of work on one person, and that's just one school. And if you've got 6 for the whole district, that's a lot once we go one-to-one.
In the best situation, lots of districts that we've worked with and collaborated with, they do have their technology coaches within the buildings. It's an ideal position to really ensure that what you're putting in place is really getting out with the students and the teachers as you build that capacity.
It's just a balance so that the teachers can focus on instruction, but they're not going to be they can't do full instruction and also be IT experts.
Absolutely.
At the same time, so.
And that's what we came together when we brought those coaches in. We helped them understand what their role looked like. We had complete collaboration with the principals, and they were really excited that they were coming with us monthly to really come together and talk and learn and make sure that we could really build that capacity within their building. But we wanted them to understand what their position really looked like, and Diane's folks gave them a very clear picture of the difference with what a technician might look like and what that instructional coach really needs to look like in that school.
So what is the responsibility of the coach? I'm trying to get clarity.
The school level coach?
Yes.
Well, that's up to the principal, but what the coaching job description is to help take that learning, the instructional, the curriculum, and to really make sure that they use the different types of resources, tools, to help those students with their learning. Okay. And it really helps them differentiate the learning for that student.
In other words, make sure I understand you. What you're saying is the instructional coach helps the teachers to integrate technology in the classroom in everyday lessons. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they model the lessons, they share information, and they co-teach with the teachers a lot of times as well.
Diane, I'm curious to know when you expect to hear about E-rate for those other schools during this year.
We should hear any time now. They're kind of late getting back with us.
Okay.
They were supposed to let us know by August. Okay. But from everything that we've heard, they are going to fund all of the schools that we applied for will be funded.
Okay.
From everything that we've heard.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any others? Go ahead.
Ms. Driggers, what kind of numbers do you have as far as your staff? And the numbers that, as far as the devices across the district, was close to 67,000. That really is a lot of devices. How many people are in your staff?
You know, it fluctuates so frequently. It's really, it's really hard for us. We are almost close to having a full staff. I think we're about maybe 4 people short. We've got, actually, for the The field tech support, and I don't remember the numbers, I'd have to look, but the field tech support, we tried to staff around, it's about 18, maybe 18 or 19, that work out in the schools every day. But they will support everything from the computer, the PC, to the audio system, the PA, the clocks, the bells, everything that runs on the network, as well as all the, the wireless devices, the wireless access points, and any whatever. Pretty much if it plugs in the school, they call us, whether it's, but it's almost, I can't think, the scoreboards were responsible for scoreboards and the audio systems and the multipurpose rooms, as well as on the football field.
So 18 people to do everything.
And we have other areas. We've got a development staff that's working on the data warehouse. They work on all the application side. The fact that a student can come in our district and enroll in Power School, and then within the next day they have an email account, they have a Google account, and Office, their Office 365 if they want to use OneDrive or Google Drive. The fact that they can do all that, that's the development and the networking staff. So that's another group of people. So it's different groups, but as far as out in the school every day, and that actually whenever I added those people and that support team, that also includes we've got the help desk, where we keep that. We have a support ticketing system where everybody puts in their work orders, their teachers put them in, and then I've got somebody that routes them to whatever those areas that they would go to, whether it's a smart board or whatever, different areas. They route the tickets, and then when they're in the schools, they can bring those tickets out. But they, so we've got that group too, and that's 2 people that stay in there and do that. So it's a lot of different little areas, but they're all little. And we have a pretty frequent, our turnover rate's pretty high.
Well, I will commend you because that is impressive to do that many, to handle that many devices with that small of a staff in as many schools as we have. So thank you for that. And I know that is a tremendous cost savings to the district. Mr. Thomas could help us with numbers on that, but I know my husband doing IT for so many years, I know what a valuable service that is, and when the phones are down or the bells are down and or computers are down, schools do not function. So thank you.
Diane knows how to stretch the dollar.
Yes, she does. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Thank you. Ms. Driggers and Ms. Snyder, first of all, Diane, I want to thank you and congratulate you because you're putting technology in the hands of a lot of children who could not normally afford it. And that's got to be a tremendous amount of joy for both of you. So congratulations. Part of the pessimism that I heard in the community when we first started discussing one-on-one devices was that the children are going to lose them. They're going to get damaged. They're going to be stolen. But everything I've read, that's not the case. So what are we experiencing in Berkeley County with our children and our families, particularly with the one-on-one devices, not the BYOD, but the one-on-ones?
Right. And we've just started rolling that out. Our schools,
Right.
next Daniel Island had a big initiative, Marrington Meadow. Right now, our failure rate's not bad, but we're not taking them home yet.
Okay. So that's when the concerns.
That
yeah.
will change some, but from everything that I've read, it's
Me
not
too.
what you would think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their device. They're going to take care of that. That's what, the numbers that I've read are not what I would have thought.
Right.
And then the other thing too is we do our due diligence. If it's iPads, we make sure they've got a good case. And the Chromebooks we buy, we make sure that they are a ruggedized case with those. So, that's the other side of it too.
Good. That's good news. Thank you. And I am taking care of the iPad that you provided to me. Thank you, Ms. Driggers. Thank you, Ms. Snyder.
Thank you.
30 years ago, I walked into Hanahan High School and I had 2 Apple IIe computers sitting in the back of my classroom, and I thought I had died and gone to heaven.
Me
And
too,
now
had
we're
2. I only had 1.
We just sold them.
Well, also, one of the things we need to keep in mind is the Strom-Thurmond report and the fact that, over the next 20 years, the growth that we're going to be seeing in this county, if we're going to continue with these one-on-one devices, we're going to have to look at, a lot of money to be putting in there to be able to purchase these. So we got to keep that in our minds as we're looking at budgets from year to year because the growth, alone just, we've got to take care of those kids. Thank you all.
I also want us to invest in coaches for every school, because having a device that you take an AR test on is very different than having a device that's personalized to your learning and that is engaging to what you're doing. So just having the device is a huge undertaking, but until we can really integrate it into the classroom and learn with it, it's kind of a, it's only half of what we need to accomplish. So I don't know how 6 schools can afford coaches and the other ones can't. I haven't done this budgeting thing enough times to understand that, but I want us to consider that. If we're going to spend the money to put the devices in their hands, we need to spend the money to make them very valuable.
If you'll make the motion, I'll second. Looking forward to hearing.
You get a third over here too.
They're trying to spend your money again, Bradley.
Find some more
We
money.
need the money. We got to talk to the money man over there.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 9, the instruction and accountability item for information, high school assessment results.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Turner, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, this always throws me since I'm a lefty. While I'm pulling this up, I want you to think about Laura Ingalls Wilder. Y'all watch Little House on the Prairie? Come on, fess up. I know you watch Little House on the Prairie. And you think about what Laura had in terms of accessing information. She had probably a dictionary at the source, probably in the classroom, her teacher, mom and pa in her community, and that was it. And the teacher had to teach the kids how to access information using what was there in Walnut Grove. And you think about that list that Diane and Sharon had up earlier with all those different kinds of pieces of technology. We've got to teach our kids how to use all that technology to access information and then to create something with it. So it's a challenge not just to make sure that our kids know that, but also to make sure that our teachers and our parents are kept up with technology as well. So with that said, I'm going to move on to our high school assessment results, or I should say a portion of our high school assessment results. I'm not going to talk about, and of course tonight, our ACT for 11th grade students or our graduation rate. These are just the things that have been released to date, so there's more to come. All right, so just to be very clear, I want to go over a little bit of a timeline regarding ACT and SAT and talk about who was tested and who was not tested and that kind of stuff. So in 14-15, the results that I'm going over are the seniors that chose to take either, neither or both the ACT and the SAT. So these are the folks that chose to take the test as seniors. However, last year, all 11th grade students took the work keys. I can go over that tonight because that embargo was released early this morning. And the ACT. So I am not talking about the ACT results of the 11th grade students. That's coming later. These are just the seniors that took it. And just so you know, this year, all 11th grade students will also take the work keys again. However, we're required to have a college and career readiness assessment for 11th grade, which was the ACT last year. We still don't know what that test is going to be for the current school year. All right, so what's the difference between the ACT and the SAT? So the ACT is an achievement test measuring what a student has learned in school. The SAT is more of an aptitude test, testing reasoning and verbal abilities, more of a predictor of how a child might do. The SAT is changing. I'll go over that later. The ACT has 5 components: English, math, reading, science, optional writing test, and then the SAT has that critical reading, math, and a required writing test. All right, so this is pretty significant. The red line are the number of students that we've had taking the ACT since 2008 to 2015, and the blue line, the number of students taking the SAT. Clearly, you can see the SAT has kind of flatlined. That number of students and even percentage rate has remained relatively flat since 2008, but as you can see, that spike in the red there shows that we've got more and more kids taking the ACT. And we expect that to continue, actually. All right, so our ACT results for 2015, this is just a list again of the subjects that are assessed. Please know that the score ranges from 0 to 36. I'll talk a little bit later on about what college entrance is in South Carolina specific to ACT. All right, so here's our composite historical data. So how did we do overall compared to the state? And we went back to 2004, and I just wanted you to see the discrepancy between where we were as a district compared to the state in 2004 to where we are now. So we were significantly behind the state, and now we're right behind the state in terms of our composite score. And going back to that previous slide, we're doing that while we're also significantly increasing the number of students taking the ACT. So that's a pretty good achievement. We're pretty proud of those results, and we continue to improve, and I expect to be at or above the state in a couple of years if this trend continues. And I'm anxious to see how these results look for all 11th grade students that took it in the state. All right, and so here's the percentage of the students taking the ACT. I don't have the results for the state this year, but you see we had a lower percentage in 2010. We nudged above the state in 13. We dipped a little bit, and again, I'm not sure where we will fall here, but I think we'll be pretty close to where the state is in terms of percent taking. So the rest of these slides are just a breakdown by subject. Again, you can see the discrepancy here between us and the nation, and how we're both coming a little bit more in line with where the nation is, and again, right behind the state for ELA. For reading, neck and neck with the state, and again, you can see how the nation is actually kind of flatlined, and we're sort of sneaking up on them since 2009. And math, I think, is probably our biggest challenge area. We see that across the board, not just in our high school results, but also elementary and middle. I think that's true not just in Berkeley, but in the state as well. I think that's where we need to make the most gain. But we do have some promising results from our Aspire results, which I can't tell you about yet. And these are our science results, again, neck and neck with the state, and not too far behind the nation there. And again, you see making up a gap since 2009. All right, I know this is hard to see, but these are ACT scores in South Carolina colleges. So this says 25%, and you can see that this means that 25% scored at this number or lower in the school. This says 75%, so 75% scored this number or lower in the school. So this is kind of the range of sort of the student population in those particular schools. So I see a low of 15, and I think the high, I hate to say it, is Clemson at 25. And they also have the highest there at 30. So Clemson is actually our most competitive college in terms of the ACT, with Wofford, Mr. Thomas, close behind.
Mr. McQuillan's taking some issue with the validity of those scores.
Okay, I'm right there with you, buddy. I double-checked it and double-checked it. So SAT, critical reading, math, and writing scores range between 200 and 800. I want to talk real quickly about the changes in SAT for 2016. To be quite frank, SAT is shifting to be more like the ACT. That's kind of the bottom line of it, and we're happy about that. So it's more grounded in real world kinds of things, tied directly to what the students will do in college and in their careers. You see the scale is changing back to the 1,600 rather than 2,400 points. The essay portion will be optional. They will include primary source documents like the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, things of that nature. And the obscure vocabulary words that have been in the SAT will be replaced by more relevant words. So all these kinds of terms that Dr. Turner throws around will no longer be relevant on the SAT. We had a vocabulary lesson today, didn't we, Mr. Franchini? So this is the number of students tested in the light green, and this is the number of seniors. So you see that we actually have very few seniors that take the SAT compared to that population, the entire population. So again, here's reading. You'll see the results are very similar. We tend to fall right in line with the state, although we're not as far behind as we were in ACT back in 2009. But we are more in line with the national results on the SAT, except for in math. I mentioned that earlier. I think statewide and in the district at the high school level, that's something that we need to step up. And there are our writing results. Our writing results have been a little sporadic from the ACT Aspire results. You'll hear more about that when I can talk about it in more detail. Hopefully they'll release that embargo in the next few weeks. All right, advanced placement. So advanced placement is another not state mandated result that I'm going to talk about. So we've got more than 30 courses across multiple subject areas in advanced placement. In short, if our students score high enough on the AP, they can get college credit for that. And so they essentially assess, I think my pointer's dying, exams test the student's ability to perform at the college level. So this is the number of students tested in the light green, and the dark green are the number of exams. So obviously a student can take more than one exam, so that's why we separate the two. So you can see that the students tested has increased significantly since 2010, and clearly the number of exams given has gone up drastically. So that's 470 in 2010. We're at 1,368 for 2015. And so based on our results from 2013-14, we were recognized in 2015 for the Advanced Placement Honor Roll because we increased the number of exams as well as maintained our passage rate. So we're pretty proud of that status. In the state news release, they recognized Berkeley County District this year for that recognition. So these are the number of 3 to 5 scores. So these are the ones that would get college credit for that exam. And you see we dipped just a little bit from 14 to 15, but definitely have increased over the past 5 years significantly. Very proud of those results. All right, so ACT Work Keys, that was released today. So this is the first time we've assessed all 11th graders in Work Keys. In the past, we have been allowed to assess our students that were CTE completers, some of our special needs students, at-risk students as part of our Work Ready Community Initiative. And so for the first time, we are seeing the results of all 11th graders in Berkeley County compared to the state. So what this assessment does is it assesses locating information, reading for information, and applied mathematics. And so these are the components that provide a National Career Readiness Certificate. You might see the acronym NCRC in a couple of different places, but that certificate is really something that a child can take, or a student can take, I should say an adult, can take to the workplace and say, here's a credential, this is what I know. And so those credentials are broken into 4 categories: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So the bronze indicates skills for 35% of the jobs listed in the database from Work Keys. The silver, 65% of those jobs, the gold, 90%, and then the platinum, 99%. So if you're scoring platinum, basically you can do any job that's in that particular database. So we're pretty proud of this. So for the first time that we have taken that test in the state, we outscore the state and the nation in terms of the percentage of students receiving a certificate. And in thinking about things like that might be, well, we've got 89.4% of our students receiving a certificate. And, you know, when you think about that compared to, say, our graduation rate, it's important to consider those two things together, because it's clear that we are preparing a large proportion of our kids to be ready to go out into the workplace. And now here's the really cool thing about Work Keys. Because we administered this to all 11th graders, we can actually take that remaining percentage that did not get a certificate, work with them now, and they can retake the test again in the spring, and we can do that for free and try to bump up how many of our kids actually get a credential. So that's another great thing about Work Keys and the Workforce Ready Community Initiative. All right, so at this point, I know that was a lot of drab information, but I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have. And except for Dr. Turner, look at this look. I knew it was coming. I shouldn't
really
have said
excited.
that. I thought so.
When did you say the remaining results will be ready specifically to graduation rate?
I'm sorry?
When will the graduation rates and all be released?
We don't have a release date yet.
There was a memo sent out from the state that we just got today, and it says late October, I believe, to graduate.
Happy Halloween. Yes.
Thank you.
I am optimistic.
I That's good to hear.
Yes, I'm smiling.
I'm reading your poker face. Yes, that's a good. I mean, it is good to hear.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you, Dr. O'Gorman. Moving on to agenda item 10, the superintendent's report. Item for information is an update on property acquisition for Tanner Foster Creek Area School.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Following the board meeting on September 8th, Deon Jackson and I hand-delivered the latest clean copy of the sale and purchase agreement to the mayor's office in the city of Hanahan, containing revisions as described by the board at its August 25th meeting. The next day, we received a request from the mayor's office for a meeting, which took place here in our district office on September the 16th. The Hanahan delegation included Mayor Minnie Newman, Mr. Kevin Cox, council member, Mr. John Cribb, city administrator, and Ms. Pat Eckstein, who I believe is in the audience this evening. She is the chair of the Hanahan Citizens Committee. Besides myself, the school district was represented by Dr. Kent Murray, board member for Hanahan, Mr. Deon Jackson, chief administrative officer, and Archie Franchini, deputy superintendent. The city council delegation deferred to Mr. Kevin Cox, who announced that he had a new proposal which would solve all our problems. His presentation was oral, and there was no written document. Essentially, he had two main ideas. One, he said, would make us really happy, that is to remove all deed restrictions from the purchase agreement. But the second idea was that the district would pay $500,000 for the property up front and put aside in escrow $750,000, which would be payable to the city if the district violated any of the restrictions for up to 25 years. I asked him if the district was willing to pay the $1.25 million for the property without penalty or strings, would he agree to sell the property? He said no. He added that the money was not a penalty or fine, but should be considered an incentive. He further stated that he did not trust the district. Apparently, it's not about money, it's about leverage to compel. I told him that we would research his proposal and consult with our bond attorneys, that I was not sure that it was legal to use bond money in the way he described. The meeting ended shortly thereafter. There was no other discussion or proposals. We consulted with our bond attorneys at McNair Law Firm, and I want to read their email response about this proposal. Now, this is from Michael Season from the McNair Law Firm. The School Bond Act authorizes general obligation bonds to be issued for capital improvements and land acquisition. While the outright purchase of land, $1.25 million, is authorized by statute, I have concerns that a refundable performance guarantee, $750,000, is within the spirit of the statute. If the school district doesn't abide by the contractual attendance restrictions, maybe that money is considered purchase price for the land. If it does abide, the school district gets the money back, so it isn't really for land acquisition. Just as it seems odd for the escrowed amount to be recharacterized, it also seems odd to assume the school district would violate the contractual restrictions in order to characterize the payment as purchase price. There's also a requirement that referendum-approved bonds must be issued within 5 years of the referendum. If I understand correctly, the bond would be issued now and either used to pay for the land outright or pay part now and deposit part, $750,000, into an escrow fund. The referendum requirement only relates to when the bonds must be issued, not when the funds must be spent. Well, I don't necessarily think the escrow amount violates this rule. It may be problematic if the referendum question described land acquisition and school construction only, and not a potentially refundable performance guarantee. A similar issue exists if the original authorizing resolution may not contemplate the use of bond funds as a performance guarantee. Federal tax law issues. Generally, tax-exempt bond proceeds are spent within 3 years of the issue date. While there may be amounts left over at the end of that period, the user does certify on issue date that it reasonably expects to timely spend proceeds. In addition, construction proceeds not spent within 3 years must be yield restricted, invested not higher than bond yield. Further, tax-exempt bond proceeds are usually only spent on capital expenditures. There may not be a federal tax law prohibition on establishing this escrow fund, but the escrow account is troublesome because 1, the funds are potentially not spent for 25 years. 2, the only way for the funds to be deemed spent earlier is if the issuer forfeits the money because it violates a contractual provision. 3, the amounts deposited in the escrow account may be capital expenditures or not, depending on whether the issuer violates the contract. And 4, the issuer may have to track investment yields for 25 years. That's the end of his statement, but I will say that Brantley Thomas and I talked about that dreaded word arbitrage. I don't know how many of you are familiar with arbitrage, but you are not allowed to earn more money than you originally had with regard to the yield from the bonds. Is that essentially correct? And if we do that at any one time during the 25-year period, we must forfeit all of that money to the federal government. So someone has to go through, recalculate that every year for 25 years, if they don't have anything else to do, and figure out whether or not we need to give money back to the federal government. In other words, it's an interesting proposal on the part of Kevin Cox. I mean, it's very imaginative in a way, but it still it doesn't look like it's, at least from our bond attorneys, a very workable scheme for having a guarantee like that. So when Mr. Cox said he did not trust the school board, I have this last little statement I would like to make about trust. It's entitled About Trust. To my knowledge, the school district has not varied from or violated the attendance line principles enunciated in the board's recent resolution on the matter. This has been true since at least 1998 when I joined the district. To my knowledge, Berkeley County School District has not ill-treated the Hanahan City Council. In 1998, the Hanahan City Council, however, created a tax increment finance district, TIF, through an ordinance. This TIF district was in 3 areas of the city, comprising 173.4 acres. The mills for school district operations assessed on the properties contained in the 173.4 acres were transferred by the TIF ordinance from the school district to the city of Hanahan. The professed purpose was to redevelop the blighted areas of Hanahan. For the record, Mayor Minnie Newman was not mayor at the time. The total funds since 1998 diverted from the school district's coffers to the city of Hanahan is about $4 million. The Hanahan TIF was created without the consultation or approval of the Berkeley County Board of Education. State law now requires such consultation and approval by the school board before a TIF district can be created. I bring this up because unilateral action of one governmental agency that impinges on another generates mistrust. That is the last thing we need now. All Berkeley County School District has wanted since the bond referendum passed was to build a school for the children of Hanahan within the city limits of Hanahan and to pay a fair price for it. That's all we have wanted. And to help the city of Hanahan with some infrastructure improvements connected to the project. At every turn, we have met deed restrictions, fines, penalties, zoning restrictions, etc. If we're looking for a fine, why don't you just consider the $4 million as the fine? This has been really a quagmire. I have worked on this ever since I came into this office 4 months ago. Now it's 4 months ago. Time and time and time again, I have gone and tried and talked and never really objecting or failing to respond to people when they said they wanted to talk about it, and to do it with integrity as much as I possibly could. It's a shame we are where we are, which is nowhere, with this proposal. I am really upset about it. So we're going to have to pursue other alternatives. Mr. Kevin Cox said that we would have to build the school in Hanahan, or he would see about it. We don't have to build the school in Hanahan. The document describing what would be done with regard to a school in the Tanner Foster Creek area never once mentions the word Hanahan. It says in the area of, just like Nexton was built in the area of Snake, what is it? Sheep Island Road. Snake, whatever. I mean, it's a huge area. So therefore, we can build a school that will serve the children of Hanahan that's not in the city limits of Hanahan. And we have been pressed into 4 or 5 different properties over the last several years, and still the children of Hanahan are suffering. It's absolutely incomprehensible to me how this could have happened. And yet I have tried and tried. I want everyone to know everything I could do to try to bring reason and integrity to this situation. And I don't know what else to do except throw up my hands and say, we'll have to take our business elsewhere. What a shame. What a shame. I'm embarrassed.
Mr. Chairman, I feel the need to speak to Dr. Turner. I want to thank Dr. Turner for his efforts. I got to see his hard work and effort throughout this process. As each day goes by, Dr. Turner, I find myself respecting you more and more. And I will not ask you to continue to work on this property. As you stated in your letter to the mayor, it would be a tragedy not to build this school in the city of Hanahan. I'm feeling very tragic tonight, but I appreciate your efforts. I saw the effort that you put into this, but as I said a couple meetings ago, you either want to build a school with us or you don't, and they made it very clear that they do not. So colleagues, you will not hear me asking about Williams Lane again. Dr. Turner, please find us some property to build a school for our children.
We'll do our best, sir.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Thank you.
Then moving on to agenda item number 11, the executive session. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we go into executive session for the discussion of a pending employment matter, including an administrator appointment and the receipt of legal advice for threatened legal claims.
Second.
Student appeal also? Withdrawn?
Withdrawn.
The student appeal is withdrawn.
Student appeal has been withdrawn.
Let's do it. That's the motion.
Then the motion is that we go into executive session for the discussion of pending employment matters, including an administrative appointment, receipt of legal advice, that is threatened legal claims. Is there any discussion? Then all those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Then we are in executive session. Thank you.